Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome to Sidereal Insights Astro Update for the 10th of February, 2020. Let me just go ahead and get the broadcast ready so that I can address questions or comments while we're live. And I hope everyone is enjoying this wonderful Monday. It's kind of a fresh new week, right? We have to give it a brand new fresh start. Happy Monday. All right, where are we at here? There's our broadcast. Looks like we're not muted. There we go. Now it's muted, and it looks like we do have sound. So mic check, right? Let me go ahead and get my notes back in front of me, and we'll dive right in. For those of you who are new to the broadcast, I'm Phaedra. I'm the astrologer and artist of Mystic Physick Astrology, and I use Western Sidereal Astrology in my practice. Today we're working with the Fagan-Bradley Sidereal Zodiac, and we're just kind of taking a look at the current transits and astrology of the heavens from that particular perspective, with the idea that you can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect your life in a positive way. And so I want to invite you to tag a friend or share this video if you know someone who might get benefit out of what we're going to be talking about today. What we're going to be talking about today, by the way, as we dive in, prepping for Mercury retrograde, which is just around the corner. We're already in the shadow period for Mercury retrograde. We're going to be talking a little bit about bad boy Mars and what we can expect from him. And some things to think about as we move into spring. Actually, I was just looking ahead at some of the transits we have coming up in the next couple of months, and I want to give y'all some kind of previews of some things to come, just some things to be thinking about. And I have notes in front of me. I didn't finish typing up everything I wanted to talk about today, so we'll see if I forget anything important. If I do, I'll come back and leave a pinned comment. How about that? So yes, what we really want to be looking at right now is a recap of where we're at with the current astrology. We've had some things change pretty recently, kind of shifting where we're at. So let's go ahead and recap that. I do have one note that I want to move because I don't want to talk about it yet, but I don't want to forget it. So hold on. Right there. Okay. So the end of January, we just had Mercury and Saturn change signs at the same time. We had Mercury move into Aquarius, where he's stationing retro, or where he is, about to station retrograde. We had Saturn move into Capricorn, the sign that he rules. And Saturn will be in Capricorn until late January 2023. So that's a bit of a longer term transit. It's going to take place over the course of several years. Mercury is faster moving. Typically his transits only run for a couple of weeks, but this time around he's going to be in Aquarius until April. And that's because he's about to retrograde there, and he just entered that sign. So that retrograde is going to slow him down. He's going to spend a protracted period of time in Aquarius this spring, which is kind of unusual. So what this means is that Aqua babies get a double dose of challenge for February, right? Because we have Mercury retrograding through your sign of Aquarius, and then we have Saturn, the traditional ruler, moving into his rulership into that Capricorn sign. And so you're going to be facing Saturn's challenges kind of now in a new area of life. So Aquarius babies, just take note, you get a bit of a double dose of that just starting this month, because while Saturn is making that sign change, he's a little bit, we tend to feel that a little bit more pronounced when a planet moves into a new sign. So expect to be tested in the area of your life where you find Capricorn in your sidereal natal chart over the coming 3 years. That's the important thing to know. We've just been through tests in our Sagittarius house. When Saturn transits a house, he's testing for weakness. He's looking for weakness in the underlying structure. He's looking for weakness in faulty foundations. He's checking to make sure that what you're building is going to last. And if it's not going to last, Saturn is going to expose that weakness and give you an opportunity to rectify it. And if you can't rectify it, guess what? Well, we've just been through that in our Sagittarius house, right? So now that's what we have to look forward to for the Capricorn transit. And how you'll feel that just depends on where you find Capricorn in your sidereal natal chart, okay? But what I want you to kind of be thinking about with this shift is, what are you committing to for the year, especially while Mercury's retrograde? That's a good period to kind of take a step back and go, wait a minute, what did I intend for the beginning of this year, way back at the start of January? Does that really still fit? Am I on the right track? Do I need to make adjustments in my approach? Okay, so use these coming weeks for that kind of an assessment. That would be a good way to spend Mercury retrograde, and it would be a good way to spend the first weeks of Saturn's transit through Capricorn, right? Which has to do with our ambitions, our biggest goals, right? So we just had our full moon in Cancer. That was yesterday, just as Mars entered Sagittarius. Now, what I want to call out about this full moon and Mars moving into a new sign, a fire sign, the moon happened to be trining Mars just as he was making that change. And so that really flavors this full moon with that Martian energy. It energizes the full moon, right? So we could be a little bit more emotional with Mars influencing the moon, but we could also be a little bit more mentally active. Our mindset and our attitude towards things could be a little bit more optimistic possibly, but also just a little bit more changeable. So that's something to keep in mind. But then what is going to flavor that a little bit further that we might not normally expect is just the day before the new moon, Mars went out of bounds. And so we need to talk a little bit about what Mars out of bounds is like during today's broadcast. And I just want to call out, we're at the end of that window now of all planets being in direct motion at the same time. Now that Mercury's about to retrograde, we'll have retrograde activity all through the end of the year. And that's something that we're going to be talking about when we get to that third point on the broadcast, about some things to think about as we move further into spring. But what I want to be calling out is we're in the shadow, be finishing up important Mercury related business that just can't wait. Anything else, put it on the back burner and hold off until after Mercury retrograde is over. Okay, with him being so close to stationary retrograde, if you have super important things that can wait, that are Mercury ruled activities, I would just recommend holding off for now. Mercury retrograde is a period of flux, so there's information that could be coming to you that you need. Things could be changing, circumstances, environments, situations are changing. It's better to be patient and let those changes play out and see what they're going to be before you move forward on Mercury related activity, if you don't have to right now. But you can always check out my blog post about that, the Mercury retrograde survival guide at mystickphysick.com. If you need a refresher on that, I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the comments right there. There's a lot to talk about today. It's kind of a weird month, a weird period of time, and that there's so much going on at once that is kind of unusual. Eclipse season is wrapping up. Our January eclipse season is just about over. I want to bring this up because on the 8th and the 9th, is that what I have? We had 2 days where folks could be receiving eclipse news if you were affected by the January 10th lunar eclipse in Gemini. That eclipse was active again on the 8th and the 9th, and so you may have received eclipse news over these last couple of days if that's you. And then we do have coming up the 23rd of February later this month, the Christmas Day eclipse will be active again. So for folks who are affected by that one, watch the 23rd of February. There's a potential for more eclipse news to come at you around that date as well. Okay. What else? The sun will move into Aquarius here in just a few days on Valentine's Day, February 14th, Valentine's Day here in North America. And Mars right now in Sagittarius. So let's dive a little bit more into this Mars in Sagittarius bit. So Mars just moved into Sagittarius on the 9th, right? The day after he went out of bounds, just as he's trining the moon at its fullness. So it's really going to kind of flavor the entire full moon cycle, but we also are seeing this as kind of a flavor of Mars's transit of Sagittarius, right? Could be a little bit more emotionally volatile. when we think of Mars types of emotions are very aggressive, right? They can be angry, combative, headstrong, impulsive, right? So, so these are some of the things that we want to be aware of. When Mars is out of bounds, his best and worst qualities are on display, and that's true in all of us. So this is when he orbits north beyond the Tropic of Cancer or south beyond the Tropic of Capricorn, right? Hi, Francisco from Brazil. First time here. Good to have you on the broadcast. If you have questions while we go, please let me know in the comments and I'll monitor for that. So with Mars out of bounds, this is a time when we have a tendency to be way more headstrong than normal. We're more driven than normal. We're more ambitious than usual. So these can be positive qualities provided we channel them in the right manner. Our courage runs higher, right? This can be a positive expression of Mars's energy. We can be more willing to be brave and to take risks on behalf of other people, right? Selfless risks. But we can also be more self-centered. We can be more impulsive. We can be overly aggressive, right? We might be more prone to picking fights, and we might be more prone to picking fights about things that don't even really matter. Just picking fights for the sake of picking fights, right? So he can influence us to overreact in rash and even sometimes uncharacteristically violent ways when Mars is out of bounds, right? So be careful during these weeks. Now, this is going to be the case through early April, pretty much the whole time that Mars is in Sagittarius. We're going to be feeling this out of bounds energy. So be aware about that risk of picking fights unprovoked or overreacting in anger to something that someone else did or said. We might see challenges where there are none, basically, is what I'm getting at. So be aware of that tendency. Try to cultivate patience during this time. Cultivate compassion for yourself and for others. Practice forgiving and forgetting. That's really kind of the best way to go about it. Try to tap into those more noble qualities of Mars that we talked about earlier, right? This influence is going to last, until early March. I said early April, but early March, March 3rd is when Mars will return from out of bounds travel. But I want to call out that while he's out of bounds in Sag especially, what could be flashpoints for us are things around ideas and ideology, or if our worldviews are challenged, right? But this is also a really great time for exploring new territory and for forging ahead. So there's some definite positive ways that you can tap into Mars's out-of-bound travel, and just be aware of how that can express and what you need to be watchful of. And Aries and Scorpio sun and rising, watch for your attention to be drawn to the house where Sagittarius falls in your natal chart. For anyone else, have a look at where Sag falls and just know that the coming 6 weeks are going to be high energy in that house. It'll be a source of activity, but it's an excellent time to be getting things done. So if you have things to do in whichever house Sagittarius occupies in your sidereal natal chart, the coming 6 weeks are your time to make it happen. But looking ahead a little bit, as I was mentioning on the last broadcast, we're still kind of shaking off this Saturn-Pluto conjunction energy. The intensity of it has maybe died down a little bit, but that is a slow and prolonged tapering off. So we will be feeling the tapering off of that over the next 12 to 18 months. It's not a one and done deal. So watch for whatever theme that particular conjunction brought up for you in your chart. Watch for whatever theme that is to be active and kind of wearing the energy of it to be kind of wearing itself out and tapering off over the next year and a half-ish. Okay. And then coming up through the end of the month, we have a few other kind of transits that I want to call out. We were just talking about how the sun moves into Aquarius on Valentine's Day here in North America, February 14th. Mercury stationing retrograde. He's going to be stationary on the 16th. He'll be retrograde on the 17th. That's in Aquarius. If you don't have your plan, read the survival guide. It'll walk you through how to make a plan for using Mercury retrograde. The 20th of February, kind of an interesting day, especially if you're into writing or film or fantasy or photography, anything around creating illusion. There's some really fun illusion energy going on the 23rd. Anything around truth and illusion, right? Could be fun to play with. On the 20th. Watch the 21st and the 23rd of February for the potential for surprises, for unexpected things to be happening around you. On the 23rd, we could be running into issues around having too much of a good thing, okay? And then coming up at the very, very end of the month, I want to call out the 28th of February as a day to keep your eye on. This is a day when we could be experiencing power struggles in relationships. We could be dealing with aggressive or selfish or controlling tendencies in partners or in partnerships. We might be the partner who's behaving that way. Venus is entering Aries that day. She's moving into a sign of detriment, right? At the same time that she's going to be squaring Pluto, which is a planet that has to do with control. It has to do with power, right? And at the same time, there's a chance for unexpected news that day as well. So just kind of keep your eye on April 28th as being a day to kind of give a wide berth to if you can, and just be aware that partnership matters, things having to do with money, business. It's not a day I would necessarily choose to negotiate if you needed to negotiate. How about that? Also, one cool announcement, mystickphysick.com/2020 is the URL where you can go to check out the 2020 Ultimate Astrological Planner. I finally got everything updated. So if you're looking for an astrological planner with the Lahiri zodiac, the Lahiri 𝘄𝗵𝗶𝘀, that's available on the website now. You can order it. You don't have to put a comment in the notes box at checkout to let me know that you want Lahiri. I did finally get that updated on the website. Oh, and I wanted to talk a little bit about our recent full moon. I didn't have this in my notes. So this full moon was in Cancer, right? So Moon's in her rulership during that full moon. And it was trying Mars just as he's going out of bounds, just as he's going into Sagittarius. And we have all this potentially aggressive, kind of headstrong, but brave and courageous type of energy going on, right? The thing to be thinking about with this full moon is really, what can you do in your personal life right now that could help set the stage for your future success? If you didn't have the chance to yet, go back and watch the full moon guided releasing practice that we just did. I have the link here, actually. Hold on. I'll give you a link in the video. We talked about this particular full moon in Cancer being a good time to get into reparenting practices and healing wounds, healing childhood wounds and healing emotional wounds. But it would be easy to kind of squander this energy, even though it's a very fantastic time for making progress in those areas. So I want to encourage you, take the initiative right now to make steps in that direction, because you could get a lot of mileage out of it if you do that. But expect this to be a full moon where our minds are pretty active, right? Our imagination can be kicked into high gear right now, and we're probably feeling maybe a little bit more emotional or passionate than usual. So if you want to capture this, it's a great time to do some creative things if you feel so inclined. So definitely find a way to put this particular full moon to use for you. Let me back up to my notes and make sure I haven't overlooked anything. Join me live on the 22nd. This is in the Sidereal Insights Astrology Facebook community. Right there's a link. If you're not a member of the group, you'll want to join us. On the 22nd, we are doing our new moon in Aquarius guided intention setting. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be during the retrograde, so this will be kind of a fun and interesting intention setting practice where we'll make intentions around going back and redoing something that maybe didn't work out quite right the first time around, or kickstarting a project that we maybe have started a long time ago but never really finished, that needs to be wrapped up. So it's going to be kind of an interesting intention setting, but that's 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:30 a.m. GMT, excuse me, if you're watching from the UK, and 1:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time if you're watching from down under. You're watching on February 23rd on Sunday. And also, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Mystic Physick Astrology, and hit the bell notification icon so that it will notify you every time a new video goes up, like will be happening this afternoon when I post this one. And thank you all for joining me on the broadcast. Thanks for joining us, Francisco, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.